Assalamu alaikum students. This is your chemistry teacher Sir Naushad Mehdi, and in today's video we will be going to solve IGCSE Feb March 2025 paper 2. So let's start. Okay, so this is the MCQ number 1. In this question it is saying that the diagram shows the containers of the gas at the same temperature. All the containers have the same size. Okay, so in these are the 4 containers and all of them have the same volume or the same size. And now they are asking that which container contains the gas with the highest pressure. So as we all know that gas pressure depends upon the number of molecules which are present inside the container. The greater the number of molecules, the greater would be the pressure, because the gas pressure is the uh, collisions of the gas molecule with the wall of the container. So the greater the number of molecules, the greater would be the gas pressure. So in all of these, you can see the part A, there are greater number of molecules, so it would be having a greater or the highest pressure. Okay. MCQ number 2. In this question, a cooling curve is drawn, and it is saying that which statement is correct. So if you analyze this cooling curve, so in the cooling curve, you all know that it starts from the gaseous state. So initially from U to V, it's a gas, and when the gas cools down, it converts into liquid. So from V to W, it is converting into the liquid phase, which is would be gas plus liquid. Then once it's converted completely into liquid, and again the temperature starts decreasing from W to X is liquid form, and then after reaching the X, it starts freezing. So the liquid starts converting into solid state, and then finally by reaching at the point Y, the freezing has been completed, and now it has been completely converted into the solid state. So now it is saying that which statement is the correct. Between U and Y, the substance is condensing. So you can see in the U and Y, it's only in the gaseous form, so it's not a correct statement. Between U and Y, between U and W, heat is being absorbed from the surrounding. So as we see V and W, so at V and W, what is happening? The gas is converting into liquid, so it is basically condensing, right? And during the condensation phenomena, the heat is not being absorbed, the heat is being released in the surrounding. So this is also incorrect. Between W and X, the particles are close together and randomly arranged. So in between the W and X, you can see it's the liquid state, and in a liquid state, the particles are close together, obviously, and but they are not close enough that they would be regularly arranged like just like a solid. So it's randomly arranged in the liquid. So option C is the correct answer. Okay. MCQ number 3. Sample of the 4 gases are released in a room at the same time. The 4 gases are carbon dioxide, hydrochloric acid, hydrogen chloride HCl, hydrogen sulfide H2S, and nitrogen dioxide. So which gas diffuses fastest? So as we all know that the diffusion of the gas depends upon its relative molecular mass. So the speed of diffusion of a gas is inversely proportional to its relative molecular mass. So greater the relative molecular mass, the slower would be the speed of the diffusion. So it's asking that which gas diffuses fastest. So it means that this gas must be having the lowest MR. Okay. So in this we have to calculate the MR of all of 4 these. So first of all, carbon dioxide, CO2. So you have to use the periodic table. So 12 multiplied by 1 plus 16 multiplied by 2, you will be getting 44. Hydrogen chloride HCl. So hydrogen 1 multiplied by 1 plus the AR of chlorine is 35.5 multiplied by 1, so you'll be getting 36.5. Then we have hydrogen sulfide H2S, so it would be 1 multiplied by 2 plus 32 multiplied by 1, so you would be getting 34. And then we have nitrogen dioxide NO2, so it would be 14 multiplied by 1 plus 16 multiplied by 2, so it would become 46. So the lowest one is, you can see the lowest MR is 34. So hydrogen sulfide H2S would be the correct answer. Okay, MCQ number 4. In this MCQ, it is saying that the sulfur atoms can form the negative ion S2 minus. 3 other atoms and ions are listed. So argon, calcium, and oxide ion. Oxide ion is written basically O2 minus is written. Okay. it's written calcium over here and it's written argon over here. Alright. So how many of these atoms or ion have the same electronic configuration as S2 minus? So first of all, you have to go to the periodic table. So in the periodic table, you can see that sulfur would be having an atomic number of 16 and its ion is 2 minus. So 2 minus means it has gained 2 electrons. So its electronic arrangement would be 2, 8 and 8. So now what we have to do, we have to check the electronic arrangement of these three atoms and ions also. So first of all, let's start from argon. The atomic number of argon is 18. So it would be 2, 8 and 8. So it's similar to the S minus. Now calcium, its atomic number is 20. So it's 2, 8, 8 and 2. So this is not matching with the sulfide ion. And then we have the oxide ion. So oxide ion is O minus 2 and its atomic number is 8. So after gaining 2 electrons it would be 10, so it would become 2, 8. So it is also not similar to that one. So we have just one, which is argon. So B would be the correct answer for this. Element T has two isotopes. So here we have two isotopes, uh, 12 and 14. So which statement about these isotopes is correct? They have different chemical properties because they have different number of neutrons. No, because the chemical properties depends upon the number of electrons, the valence shell electrons, and since they both have the same atomic number or same number of protons, so their electrons are also same. So their chemical properties are also same. Okay, so isotopes have same chemical properties. So this is not correct. They have the same chemical properties, yes, because they have the same number of outer shell electrons. Yes, because their atomic number you can see they are same. So their valence electrons are also same, so their chemical properties are also similar ones. So option B is the correct answer for this. Okay. In MCQ number 6, it is saying okay, lithium is in group 1 of the periodic table and nitrogen is in group 5 of the periodic table. Lithium reacts with the nitrogen to form an ionic compound which is lithium nitride Li3N. What happens to the electrons when the lithium atoms and the nitrogen atom form the ions? So since lithium is in group 1, okay, so group 1 means that it has one electron in the last shell, so it would be forming an ion of plus 1, it will be losing one electron obviously. Group 5 means that nitrogen is having the 5 electrons in the last valence shell, so it would be gaining 3 electrons in order to complete the last shell, so 2 minus 2. So over here each lithium atom loses 1 electron to form the Li plus 1 ion, yes, and each nitrogen atom gains 3 electrons to form the N minus 3 ion, yes. Both the statements are correct over here. So obviously the option A would be the correct answer for this one. For which covalent compound the dot and cross diagram correctly shows the outer shell electrons? Okay, so here we have the HCl. So first of all, if you go to the periodic table, hydrogen is 1. So it just has 1 electron in the last shell. And over here we have the chlorine also. So chlorine's atomic number is 17. So it's 2, 8 and 7. So in chlorine the last shell have 7 electrons. So if you look at the first option A, so here you can see hydrogen is having 2 extra electrons over here. Okay, so hydrogen just have 1 electron, which should be the part in the bonding. So these two are the extra electrons, so this won't be the answer. Over here also you can see there are many extra electrons associated with the hydrogen, so this is also not the answer. Now coming to the C, in the part C, there is nitrogen also. So nitrogen's atomic number is 7, so it would be 2, 5. So in the last shell we have 5 electrons in the nitrogen. So over here we can see 5 dots are there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and with each dot we have 1 cross also associated with the hydrogen. So this is the correct dot and cross diagram. The outer shell is also complete. So option C is the correct answer. And why not the option D? Because in option D you can see nitrogen is having only 3 electrons, 1, 2 and 3, although it has 5 electrons in the last shell. Okay, so this is also incorrect. Okay, MCQ number 8. In MCQ number 8, it is saying that which row identifies the positive and negative particles present in a giant metallic lattice. So it is talking about the metallic bonding over here. So in the metallic bonding, as we all know that the metallic bond is the lattice of positive ions. In the metallic bond, we have a lattice of positive ions, and that lattice of positive ion is being surrounded by the free electrons. So we have free or delocalized electrons over there, and we have an electrostatic force of attraction also, which is called as metallic bonding. Okay, so the positive particles are not the anions, they are the cations. Okay, and the negative particles are your free electrons, or you can call it delocalized electrons also. So option D is the correct answer for this one. Okay, moving to the next question. Okay, MCQ number 9. Which formula for the named compound is correct? Calcium oxide. So you have to go to the periodic table. Calcium is in group 2, so it's having a charge of +2. Oxygen is in group 6, so it would be having a charge of -2. You will cancel it out and you will get the formula CaO. So this is the correct answer. So option A is the correct answer for this MCQ. Okay. Why not the other options? For example, if you see cobalt 2 chloride. So cobalt 2 means cobalt having a charge of +2. Chlorine is in group 7 -1. So if you cross multiply, so you'll be getting COCl2. So it's incorrect. Sulfur dioxide. So sulfur dioxide means 2 times oxygen. So it would be SO2. This is also incorrect. Anhydrous copper 2 sulfate. So copper 2 means +2 and sulfate you all know that is -2. So you'll be getting CuSO4. Okay, so this is also incorrect. So option A is the correct answer. Okay, now in this MCQ it is saying that the equation for the magnesium with the dilute sulfuric acid is shown. Magnesium's MR is given. Which mass of the magnesium sulfate is formed when 12 gram of magnesium completely reacts with the dilute sulfuric acid? So over here, the mass of the magnesium is given to you, which is the 12 grams, and it is saying that which mass of magnesium sulfate. So you have to find out the mass of the magnesium sulfate that is being formed. So over here, first of all, you will find out the moles of the magnesium. So when you will calculate the moles of the magnesium mass upon air, so mass is 12, the air of the magnesium of the periodic table is 24, so you'll be getting 0.5 moles. Now if you apply the molar ratio, so magnesium ratio MgSO4, so the according to the balance equation, they both have the 1:1 ratio. So 1 mole ratio, 1 ratio. So it would be 0.5 ratio X. So you would be getting the moles of MgSO4. So moles of MgSO4 would also be 0.5. Now since we need to calculate the mass, so again we will apply the formula of moles for MgSO4 now. So mass upon Mr. So moles is 0.5. The mass for MgSO4 we need to calculate. The Mr of MgSO4 is already given, which is 120. So when you will cross multiply it, so you would be getting the answer 120 multiplied by 0.5. So you would be getting 60 grams. So option C is the correct answer for this one. Okay, now MCQ number 11. Now in this MCQ it is saying that an organic compound Q contains the carbon, hydrogen and oxygen only. Q contains 40% carbon and 6.7% hydrogen by mass. So first of all, you would be going to find out the percentage of oxygen. So percentage of oxygen would be 100% minus 40% of carbon and 6.7% of hydrogen. So 53.3%. So now you need to calculate the empirical formula. So the first step of the empirical formula is to divide the percentage of the elements by their AR. So 40 divided by 12, the AR of carbon. Then we have hydrogen, 6.7%. The AR of hydrogen is 1. Oxygen is 53.3 divided by 16, which is the AR of oxygen. So 40 divided by 12, we get 33. Hydrogen would be 6.7 and oxygen would be again 3.33. Now in the second step we need to find out the smallest whole number atomic ratio, for which we have to divide the smallest value with all of these three. So the smallest value is 3.33. So we will divide the all the values with 3.33. So carbon, the smallest atomic ratio of carbon is 1. Hydrogen would be 6.7 divided by 3.33.01. So if we round it off, so you'll get a whole number, atomic ratio 2. And then again, oxygen would be 3.33 divided by 3.33. So you'll be getting 1. So the empirical formula is C1H2O. CH2O. So option B is the correct answer. Okay, MCQ number 12. Now in this, it is saying the value of the Avogadro's constant is 6.02 10 to the power 23. What is the total number of atoms in 2 moles of ammonia gas? So ammonia gas, we all know that it's a molecule which is NH3. So first of all, if we find out the number of molecules, we will apply the formula for the number of particles. So number of molecules of ammonia gas. Okay, so it would be moles multiplied by Avogadro's constant. So moles we have 2, and we have to multiply it by the Avogadro's constant. So it would be 12.04 into 10 to the power 23. But these are the molecules of ammonia gas. Okay, but in the question they were asking what is the total number of atoms. Okay, but these are the molecules because ammonia is in the form of molecule. Okay, NH3. So as we know that if we have one molecule of ammonia NH3, so it is made up of total 4 atoms. Okay, one atom of nitrogen and 3 atoms of hydrogen. So total one molecule is made up of 4 atoms. Okay, so how many atoms would be in these number of molecules? So simply we will multiply by 4. Okay, so if we want to find out the number of atoms, so the total number of molecules are 12.04 into 10 to the power 23. So we will multiply this by number 4 because in one molecule we have 4 atoms in it. So these number of molecules 12.04 exponent 23 would be having how many atoms? So multiplied by 4. So when you will multiply it by 4 into 10 to the power 24. So option C is the correct answer for this one. Alright. Moving to the next one, MCQ number 30. 3 aqueous solutions LMN are electrolyzed using the inert electrodes. L is the hydrochloric acid, concentrated hydrochloric acid. So what ions will be present over here? Concentrated means that it is aqueous also. So H plus Cl minus and H plus and OH minus. So these would be the ions. M is the concentrated aqueous sodium chloride. So it would be having Na plus Cl minus H plus and OH minus. Okay. Similarly, N is the dilute aqueous sodium chloride. So again, it's an aqueous form. So sodium chloride Na plus Cl minus and H plus and OH minus. These 4 ions would be present. So which solutions will produce a pale yellow-green gas at the anode? So they are asking about the anode. So anode, we all know that the at anode the anions go over there and they get oxidized. So, okay, so anions uh, oxidize. Okay, so at anode, since the anions are discharged over there, so first of all, if we look at the first one, the anions are your Cl minus and OH minus. Okay, these are your anions. So which one will be get discharged? Okay, so since it is a concentrated hydrochloric acid, so concentrated means that Cl minus ion will be in the greater quantity and the anion which is in the greater quantity that gets discharged. So obviously Cl minus will get discharged and OH minus will not get discharged. So if Cl minus will get discharged, so obviously chlorine will be formed. Okay, so if the chlorine will be formed, so yellowish green gas would be formed at the anode. Okay, so this one would be producing the yellowish green gas. Similarly, M is the concentrated aqueous sodium chloride. So again it's concentrated. So concentrated means that Cl minus and OH minus. So out of these two, since chloride ion is in more quantity, so it will get discharged and obviously the chlorine will be formed. So it will also produce a yellowish green gas at the end. Now the N is the dilute aqueous sodium chloride. So dilute means that the hydroxide ion is more quantity. So since hydroxide ion is in more quantity, so it will get discharged and the chlorine will not get discharged. So in this case, since hydroxide ion will get discharged, so the oxygen gas, which is a colorless gas, it will be produced, and yellowish green gas will not be produced. Okay, so which solutions are producing the yellowish green gas? L and M. Okay, so the option A is the correct answer for this one. MCQ number 14. Dilute sulfuric acid is electrolyzed using the inert electrodes. So dilute sulfuric acid means H plus, and sulfuric acid also contain SO4 minus 2 ions, and since it's dilute means it is aqueous, so H plus and OH minus also. So what are the ionic half equations for the reaction at each electrode? So the positive electrode is the one at which the negative anions will be attracted over there, and the electrode at which the anions are attracted, that is called anode. Okay, and the negative electrode would be the one at which the positive ions will be attracted. So positive ions are the cations, so this electrode is for your cathode. Okay, so at cathode the cations will get discharged, and at the anode the anions will get discharged. Okay, so if we look at the anion first, so we have sulfate as an anion and hydroxide as an anion. So sulfate ion never gets discharged, so if the sulfate ion never gets discharged, so hydroxide ion will get discharged. So over here these two wouldn't be the answer, and if the hydroxide ion gets discharged, so this is the equation. Okay, the oxygen gas is being produced. And similarly, if we look at the cathode, cation will get discharged over there, and cation is only one, which is the common cation, which is H plus. So hydrogen ion will get discharged to form the hydrogen gas. So option C is the correct answer for this one. MCQ number 15. Which statement about the hydrogen oxygen fuel cell are correct? Okay, so they convert the chemical energy into the electrical energy. Yes, the hydrogen and oxygen are provided as a reactant which convert, which get do the oxidation and reduction reaction to form the electrical energy. So this is the correct statement. Hydrogen is reduced in the fuel cell. So if you look at the equation of the fuel cell, so the final equation is that KH2 and O2 combines together to form 2H2O. Okay, so this is the equation for the hydrogen oxygen fuel cell if you combine both the anode and cathode equations. So this is the final equation. So over here, hydrogen oxidation state of hydrogen is 0 over here, but in water the oxidation state of hydrogen is plus 1 multiplied by 2, so it's plus 1. So it's getting from 0 to plus 1. So 0 to plus 1 means it is getting oxidized, oxidation is taking place. Okay, so hydrogen is not reduced, it is getting oxidized. So this is not a correct statement. Okay, similarly, they do not produce any atmospheric pollutants just because it's environment friendly. So 1 and 3 are the correct statements. So option C is the correct answer, because for the third statement only byproduct is your water and none of the other atmospheric pollutants are produced. So that's why statement 3 is also correct. So option C is the correct answer. The reaction pathway diagram for the reaction between P and Q to form R and S is shown. Which letter represents the enthalpy change? Okay, so enthalpy change is your delta H. So this is the energy profile diagram. So over here you all know that from these are the reactants, these are the products. So from reactant to product, this is your activation energy, and the difference of the energy between the reactant and product is called as enthalpy change. Okay, so option C is the correct answer, which is the option C, which is representing the enthalpy change delta H over here. In MCQ number 17, it is saying that the equation for the complete combustion of methane is shown. The table shows the amount of bond energy. What is the enthalpy change for this reaction? So you have to calculate the enthalpy change. First of all, for the enthalpy change, you have to calculate the total bond energies of the reactants and then the total bond energies of the product. So first of all, if we look at the CH4, so CH4 means that you have structure of CH4 is like this. Okay, and then O2. So if you look at the table, so here you can find the bond of the O2, which is O double bond O, which is 2 times in the equation. And then we have carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide means CO2. So in CO we have a carbon oxygen double bond. So it would be like this: CO2 plus and then we have H2O, water. So water consists of this bond, which is OH. So it would be like this, H2O, and which is also 2 moles, okay, 2 times. So if you want to calculate the bond energy of the reactant first of all, so if we calculate the bond energy of reactants, so on the reactant side, you can see we have CH4. So how many times carbon hydrogen bond is there? 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 4 times CH bond. So the bond energy of the CH bond is 410. So 4 multiplied by 410 plus. Then we have O2, O double bond O. Its bond energy is 496, but it's 2 times in the equation. So 2 multiplied by 496, 2632 kilojoules per mole. So this is the bond energy for the reactants. And since we all know that on the reactant side the bond breaking takes place, and bond breaking is endothermic, so it would be positive sign. Similarly, now we will be calculating the bond energy of products. So on the product side, you can see we have carbon dioxide. So we have C double bond O 2 times. So C double bond O energy is 805. So 2 multiplied by 805 plus. We have water then. Water is 1. We have 2 times OH bond 1 and 2 in one molecule of water. So in one molecule of water, the OH bond is 2 times. But over here in the equation, we have 2 molecules of water. So so overall we will be having 4 times OH bond. Okay. So 4 multiplied by the bond energy of the OH is 460. So 3450. And it would be bond energy of the products. The bond formation takes place. So it would be exothermic. So you will place a negative sign with it. So it would be negative 3450 kilojoules per mole. So now the total enthalpy change you can easily calculate. The bond energy of the reactant 2632 plus bond energy of the products minus 3450. So if you will solve it, you will be getting minus 818. So option B is the correct answer, which is minus 818 kilojoules per mole. Which change is a physical change? So physical change is the one in which no new substance is being formed. Okay, so only the state would be changing. Okay, so here we can see cracking of alkane. So cracking of alkane, you know, is a chemical reaction in which the alkane is being broken down to form the shorter chain alkanes, or it convert into alkenes also. So basically the compound is being changed over here. So this is a chemical reaction. Evaporating of ethanol. So evaporation means it is only converting from a liquid state to a gaseous state. So chemically there is nothing changing in it. So this is the correct answer, which is a physical change. The next one, MCQ number 19. So in MCQ number 19, it is saying that which statement explains why increasing the temperature of a reaction involving the gases increases the rate of the reaction. So you are increasing the temperature, right? So it increases the collision frequency, yes, because the kinetic energy increases, so the collisions will also get increased. So this is the correct statement. Similarly, it lowers the activation energy. No, the activation energy get lowers by using a catalyst. Okay, not by increasing the temperature. So this is not the correct statement. It increases the kinetic energy of the gas particles. So yes, this is also the correct statement. And it increases the number of gas particles per unit volume. So no, this would be by increasing the pressure. Okay, if you will increase the pressure, the number of molecules per unit volume will get increased. Okay, so this is also not correct. So statement 1 and 3 are the correct statements. So option A is the correct answer. In MCQ number 20, it's saying the equation for the reaction between ammonia and oxygen is shown. So it's a reversible reaction over here. And delta H you can see minus 909. So it is also exothermic. Which two changes in the reaction conditions will both move the position of the equilibrium to the right hand side? Okay. So in the first column you can see is about temperature. In the second column it's about the pressure. So as we all know that for the temperature you have to see either the reaction is exothermic or endothermic, then you can decide that whether it will go in the forward direction or the backward direction. So Since it is an exothermic reaction, so in the exothermic reaction, if you will decrease the temperature, okay, because in the exothermic reaction the heat is on the product side, the heat is being released out, okay. So if you will decrease the heat energy, if you will decrease this heat energy, so this will favor the forward reaction, okay. This will favor the forward reaction and the equilibrium will be moving towards the right hand direction, okay, because in order to balance that heat energy, the equilibrium will shift to the right hand side, okay. So this means that you have to decrease the temperature in order to favor the forward reaction. So option A and B, since they are saying increasing, so that wouldn't be correct. Now if we look at the pressure, so pressure, the rule for the pressure is that by increasing the pressure, the equilibrium moves in that direction which has less number of moles, okay. So for that you have to check the moles, okay. So on the reactant side 4 and 5, so total 9 moles are there, and on the product side we have to see the gaseous moles, so 4 and 6, so there are 10 moles of the gases on the product side. So if you will increase the pressure, if you will increase the pressure, the equilibrium will move in that direction which has less number of moles. So less number of moles are on the reactant side, so it will be moving in the left hand direction if you will increase the pressure. So similarly, if you will decrease the pressure, so it will move in that direction which has greater number of moles. So if we will decrease the pressure, it will move to the right hand side forward direction, because in the forward direction we have greater number of moles, so we have to decrease the pressure, okay. So obviously the option D would be the correct answer for this one. In this one it is saying that mercury 2 oxide decomposes when heated. The equation is shown. Why is this a reduction reaction? So here you can see it's mercury oxide HgO, and when you go on the product side, so what is happening? The oxygen is being lost, okay, or we can say the removal of oxygen, okay. So removal of oxygen is taking place, and as we all know that the removal of oxygen is called as reduction, okay. So there is a loss of oxygen, uh, so that's why this is a reduction reaction. So option D is the correct answer for this. Some information about the 2 dilute acid is shown. There are 2 dilute acids given to you. One is the nitric acid, which is HNO3, okay, and the another one is the propanoic acid, and the propanoic acid is CH3, CH2, COOH, which is a carboxylic acid. And we all know that the nitric acid, which is a mineral acid, it's a strong acid, okay, and the carboxylic acid, which is an organic acid, it is a weak acid. So here the concentration is given and the pH is given. So 3 statements about the uh, acids are listed below. Nitric acid has a lower pH, okay, because it dissociates more than the propanoic acid. Yes, because we can see that it's a strong acid. So if it is a strong acid, so obviously it will be dissociating more. It will dissociate more to produce the greater number of H plus ions. And propanoic acid is a weak acid, so it will be partially ionized. So this statement is correct. Propanoic acid has a lower concentration of H plus ion than the nitric acid. Yes, obviously, because propanoic acid is a weak acid, so it would be producing less amount of H plus ion. So this is also a correct statement. Propanoic acid has a higher pH because it has higher concentration. No, because propanoic acid would be producing the less H plus ions. Okay, so that's why it is having the higher pH. So this is not the correct one. So option A is the correct answer for this one. Element E is a metal of the group 1, and of the periodic table, and element G is a non-metal of the group 7. Both of these elements form the oxide. So which statement about their oxide is correct? So as we all know that the group 1 is a metal. So if we talk about the metal oxides, so metal oxides are basic in nature, okay, and it's a non-metal over there. So non-metal oxides would be acidic in nature, okay. So which statement about that? Both of the oxides are acidic? No. Both are basic? No. Okay. And then the oxide of E, which is the metal oxide, is acidic? No. It's a basic oxide. this is also not correct. Oxide of the G is acidic, yes, because it's a non-metal oxide, and oxide of E is basic. So option D is the correct answer for this. Okay, MCQ number 24. Lead 2 sulfate is an insoluble salt. So which method is suitable for obtaining the pure solid lead 2 sulfate? So this question is related to the salt preparation. So as we all know that if it's an insoluble salt, so insoluble salts are those salts which can be prepared by using the method of precipitation. And what is a precipitation method? In precipitation method, we take the two soluble salts, we mix them together, so the insoluble salt will be formed. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to take the solution of the two soluble salts, and we will take those two soluble salts in which one would be having a cation and one would be having an anion of the salt which we want to prepare. Okay, so the two soluble salt solutions, the aqueous solutions of the two soluble salts would be mixed together to obtain the insoluble salt, which would be precipitate out, and you would be getting another soluble salt solution. Okay, so from this soluble salt solution, what you will do, you will separate this insoluble salt by filtration method. Okay, so now just look at the statements that mix the lead 2 nitrate, okay, which is a soluble salt, and aqueous potassium sulfate, heat to evaporate. So you all know that in this method of precipitation, no heating is required. You just have to mix the two soluble salts and you just have to filter it out. So this is not the correct answer. Mix the aqueous lead 2 sulfate, lead 2 nitrate, and aqueous potassium sulfate, filter and collect the filtrate, crystallize. So you all know in the crystallization, we need to heat the solution. Okay, but there is no need of heating in the precipitation method, so this is also not correct. Mix the lead 2 nitrate and dilute sulfuric acid, filter, and then wash and dry the residue. Yes, so this is the correct one. So you are mixing up the two soluble solutions. Okay, and the insoluble salt of lead 2 sulfate will be formed, and simply you have to filter it out. So option C is the correct answer. And option D also, you can see it's crystallized written over there, so it wouldn't be. The elements oxygen and sulfur are in the same group of the periodic table. So which statement about the oxygen and sulfur is not correct? So they are non-metals. Yes, both the oxygen and sulfur are non-metals. So this is a correct statement. So this wouldn't be the answer. They have the giant covalent structures. No, because we all know that the oxygen is present in the environment in the form of oxygen gas, which is a simple covalent molecule. Okay, which is a simple covalent molecule, and also sulfur is also in the form of the simple covalent molecule. Okay, so they are not in the form of giant structures. So this is the incorrect statement. So this is the answer. Okay, and similarly, if you see at the option C, they have 6 electrons, just because they are present in the group 6. So group 6 have 6 valence electrons in the last shell, and they both are the non-metal, so they will react to form the acidic oxide also. Now MCQ number 26. Tennessine is bottom of the group 7 of the periodic table. So what are the predictive properties of the tennessine at the room temperature? Okay, so group 7 means that this group is of halogens. So okay, so halogens are your fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, astatine. Okay, and then we have, so in the halogens, we all know that as we go down the group, so what happens, their melting and boiling point increases. So if their melting and boiling point increases, so what does it mean? That fluorine is a gas at room temperature, and then chlorine is also a gas, and bromine is a liquid at room temperature, iodine is a solid. So obviously down astatine and all the below, which are below iodine, they would also be in the solid form. Okay, so obviously it would be a solid. So tennessine would be a black solid. Okay, so option C and option D are saying colorless gas, so that wouldn't be the correct. And more dense than iodine. Okay, so and in the second one it is saying more reactive than iodine. So first of all, if we look at the reactivity, so as we all know that in the group 7, as we go down the group, the reactivity decreases. So if the reactivity is decreasing, So tennessine would be below iodine, so it would be less reactive, not more reactive. Okay, so option B is also incorrect. And we all know that the density is increasing because they are converting from gas to liquid and then liquid to solid. So obviously the density would be increasing. Okay, so option A is the correct answer. Okay, in this one, it is saying an example of the sacrificial protection is the fitting the zinc blocks outside of the ship steel hull. Which statement explain why the zinc is used to protect the iron from steel from rusting? So zinc is more reactive than iron. Yes, obviously, because if you'll see at the reactivity series, the zinc is more reactive. Zinc comes above the iron, so it is more reactive. So it will be loses the electrons more easily. Yes, so option A is the correct answer. Okay, zinc is less reactive. No, zinc is more reactive than iron, so it gains electrons. No, because we all know that the metal always loses the electron, not gain the electron. Okay, so that wouldn't be also not correct. So less reactive is also not correct. Okay, so option A is the correct answer. Okay, MCQ number 28. Which statement about the alloys is correct? So alloy, we all know that it is a mixture of one metal with the another metal or a non-metal. So alloys are harder than the pure metals because they contain strong intermolecular forces. No, that is not correct, because the thing is that when you make an alloy, so since alloy is a mixture of two different metals or a metal with a non-metal, so we have different size of atoms, and because of that different size of atoms, all the atoms are interlocked with one another, and because of that interlocking of atoms, the atoms cannot slide, and which makes the alloy harder and stronger. Okay, so that harder and stronger is because of the interlocking of the atoms, which is because of the different sizes and not because of the strong intermolecular forces. Okay, the reason is incorrect over here, so that's why option A is not correct. Brass is an alloy containing copper and tin. No, because brass is an alloy containing copper and zinc. So the different size atoms in an alloy mean that the layers cannot easily slide over each other, and that is the correct answer. Okay, because in alloy we have different size of atoms. So there are no alloys containing carbon because carbon is a non-metal. No, because we have an alloy of carbon also containing carbon, which is in, the most example is the steel. Okay, steel is an alloy of iron in which we add the carbon into it to provide the strength into it. MCQ number 29. In this one, it is saying that the separate pieces of the aluminium foil and the copper foil are heated in the air. The copper foil reacts to give a black solid. The aluminium foil does not react. So, which statement about these observation is correct? So, as we all know that aluminium, when we are talking about aluminium, so aluminium always have a protective layer surrounding it. Okay, so aluminium always have a protective layer around it, and that protective layer is made up of aluminium oxide, and this protective layer does not allow aluminium to get further reacted, and which makes the aluminium unreactive. Although aluminium has a greater reactivity, okay, when you will look at the reactivity series, so aluminium has a greater reactivity than the copper, but still it is unreactive because it is having a protective layer around it. So which statement explains these observations? So aluminium has an unreactive layer, but the copper does not. Okay, and obviously we all know that aluminium has a unreactive layer of aluminium oxide, and copper does not have that layer. Okay, so option A is the correct answer. Why not the other options? If you look at the other options, aluminium is below copper. No, aluminium is above the copper in the reactivity series. So copper reacts with the moisture in the air, but the aluminium does not. Okay, so why this is incorrect? Because they are testing you that aluminium is unreactive, or aluminium is less reactive than copper, and that is not the case over here. Okay, aluminium is not reacting because it is having a protective layer, and it is not reacting uh, not because that it is less reactive. Okay, that's why we cannot consider this option also. Okay, and copper reacts with the nitrogen in the air, but aluminium does not, and that is also not the case because black solid is formed, which is the copper oxide. Okay, so it is not reacting with the nitrogen. So option A is the correct answer. To the MCQ number 30, which row gives the simple equation for the formation of carbon monoxide and the reduction of the iron 3 oxide in the blast furnace? So this question is from the extraction of iron. Okay, So formation of the carbon monoxide. So as we all know that okay, in the blast furnace, how the carbon monoxide is formed. Okay, the carbon dioxide gas is further uh, reduced by the carbon. Okay, so this is the how carbon dioxide and the coke or the carbon reacts together to form carbon monoxide, and then uh, obviously this iron oxide will be get oxidized with the carbon monoxide to form the iron. Okay, because we all know that in Fe2O3, which is the iron ore, hematite ore. Okay, so in the hematite ore, oxygen is having oxidation number of -2 multiplied by 3 -6, so iron would be getting +3. Okay, so it is converting into iron, which is 0. So it is converting from +3 to 0, so it means that it is getting reduced or reduction is taking place. Okay, so this is the correct equation. So option D is the correct answer in this case. A sample of the river water contains the higher concentration of the nitrates from the fertilizer. So it means that the river water is your impure water. Okay, so which statement about the river water are correct? So it has a boiling point of 100 degree. No, because 100 degree is the boiling point of the pure water, not for the impure water. Whenever you have the impurity in the water, okay, so whenever you have the impurity in the water, so the what impurities do? The impurity increases the boiling point and decreases the melting point. Okay, whenever the impurity is being added into the substance boiling point increases and the melting point decreases. Okay, so the pure water has a boiling point of 100, but impure water would obviously be having a boiling point above 100 degrees. So that would be the correct answer. Similarly, its melting point is below 0 degree. Yes, melting point decreases. So this is the correct answer. Option statement. It turns the cobalt 2 chloride from pink to blue. So it is a test for water. And cobalt 2 chloride, we already know that it's blue in color. And when you add the water into it, it converts into pink. Okay, so anhydrous cobalt 2 chloride is already is the blue color. So this is also not the correct answer. It changes from blue to pink, not from pink to blue. And the last one is it turns the anhydrous copper 2 sulfate from white to blue. Yes, the anhydrous copper sulfate is white, and when you add the water into it, it's convert into blue. So statement number 4 is also correct. So for MCQ number 31, the answer is the option D. Okay. Now in this MCQ number 32, it's saying which statement about the treatment of the domestic water supplies are correct. The water undergoes the sedimentation to remove the dissolved solids. No. In the sedimentation, what happens? Those solids which are dispersed in the water, which are not getting dissolved in water, they basically settle down at the bottom. Okay, so it is not used for dissolved solids to settle down. Okay, so statement number 1 is incorrect. Then we have uh, the water is filtered to remove the insoluble solids. Yes, filtration is used to remove the insoluble solids. So this is the correct statement. Then we have the water is treated with the carbon to remove the taste. Yes, carbon is used to remove the taste from the water. And the water is chlorinated to, you all know, that to kill the germs and bacteria, not to decrease the pH. So this is incorrect. So option C is the correct answer for this one. Okay, MCQ number 33 is saying that an experiment to find the percentage of oxygen in 150 centimeter cube of the polluted air. So the total volume of the polluted air is 150 centimeter cube. The apparatus is left for 1 week. After this time, the volume of the gas in the measuring cylinder is 122 centimeter cube. So why the volume decreases? Because since we have a damp iron wool over here, so damp means moist iron wool, and since the moisture is present and the oxygen is also present in the air, so this will what happened, this oxygen will be used to make this iron corrode. So the corrosion of iron will take place, the rusting of iron will take place, and in the rusting of iron, what will happen? The oxygen gas will be utilized. So, okay, So how much oxygen gas will be utilized? So initially the volume of the air was 150 centimeter cube, and after 1 week the final volume is 122. So it means that if you will subtract 150 from 122, so you will get 28 centimeter cube, and this is the volume of the oxygen gas which was initially present, which is being utilized to oxidize this iron. So this much is the volume of the oxygen gas. Okay, so what you need to do, you need to find out the percentage of oxygen. So how you will find out the percentage? So the volume of oxygen is 28, the total volume of the gas was 150, and multiply by it 100. So in this way you will get the percentage of oxygen. So 28 divided by 150 multiply by 100. So you will be getting 18.6, and when you will round it off, so you will get 19 percent. In this it is saying that the nitrogen monoxide and carbon monoxide both removed from the exhaust gases of the car by a catalytic converter. Which statement describes how the nitrogen monoxide and carbon monoxide are removed from by the catalytic converter? So we all know that the nitrogen monoxide, how the nitrogen monoxide is removed from the catalytic converter. That nitrogen monoxide reacts with the carbon monoxide in the catalytic converter, and it's converted into nitrogen gas and the carbon dioxide gas. Okay, so over here you can see nitrogen monoxide is converted into nitrogen gas. So oxygen is -2 over here and nitrogen is +2. So and over here the nitrogen oxidation number is 0. So +2 to 0. It means that from +2 to 0 the oxidation number is getting changed. So it means that it has gained the electrons, and gaining of electron is reduction. Okay. Similarly, if we talk about the carbon monoxide, so carbon monoxide in the catalytic converter gets oxidized. So after getting oxidized, it's converted into carbon dioxide gas. Okay, so carbon monoxide is being oxidized. So nitrogen is reduced while the carbon monoxide is oxidized. So this won't be the correct answers. And the option C, it is saying nitrogen monoxide is oxidized, so that is also incorrect, and the nitrogen monoxide is reduced and the carbon monoxide is oxidized, and this would be the correct answer, as we can see in the equations also. In the MCQ number 35, it is saying that propane 1-ol is oxidized by the acidified aqueous potassium magnate in a similar way as the ethanol. So propanol, so as we all know that if we have an alcohol, so alcohol after oxidation converts into its corresponding carboxylic acid. Okay, so propanol would be converting into propanoic acid. So here you can see where is the propanoic acid, this one, the last option. Okay, it is the carboxylic acid having 3 carbon atoms, so it's the propanoic acid. So option D is the correct answer. Okay, MCQ number 36. In MCQ number 36, it is saying that the structural formula of the methyl propane is given to you. So the structure formula is like this: CH3, we have CH. Now in the bracket we have CH3. So this bracket CH3 means that it's a branch. Okay, and then again we have CH3. So it would be like this. Okay. So the equation represents the reaction of the methyl propane with the chlorine. So methyl propane when reacts with the chlorine, so as you can see there are the single bond present, so it is an alkane. So if it's an alkane, the substitution reaction will take place, and over here you can see one chlorine atom is being substituted over here. So C4H9Cl will be formed. So how many structural isomers with the molecular formula C4H9Cl can be formed by this reaction? So they are asking about the total number of isomers of C4H9Cl. So uh, So what we have to do? We have to replace one of the hydrogen. We have to replace one of the hydrogen by the Cl, and then we have to check that how many isomers we can form. Okay. So if you want to replace any one hydrogen by the Cl, so it's up to you. You can replace any one of the hydrogen from it. Okay. So let's suppose that if I replace the hydrogen from this side, okay, from over here. So let's suppose let me draw it again. So it would be like this, CH3, and then we have CH, we again have CH3, and then we again have CH3. Okay, so it was like this, methyl propane. So if you remove any one of the hydrogen from this side, let me write down the hydrogens first. Okay, so now in the substitution reaction, you can remove any one of the hydrogen. So let's suppose if I remove the hydrogen from this carbon atom. So if I remove the hydrogen from this carbon atom and I replace it with the Cl over here. Okay, so if I want to name this compound, okay, so for naming this compound, what happens? Okay, you have to select the longest chain of carbon atom, and when you will select the longest chain of carbon atom, so you will start numbering from that carbon atom from where the Cl is being attached. Okay, so this would be the first carbon. So on the first carbon, the Cl is over there. Okay, similarly, if you separate the if you will substitute the hydrogen from this carbon, the corner carbon, like this. Let's suppose I am again redrawing that. Okay, so this is the second one. Again I am drawing methyl propane. Okay, now this time what I will do, I will substitute the hydrogen from this carbon. Okay, this carbon. So if I will substitute from this carbon and replace it with the Cl, okay, over here. So again, if you will select the longest possible chain of carbon atom, so again this would be termed as the carbon number 1. So again it is carbon number 1. So these two structures are exactly the same. This structure and this structure are exactly the same, because in both of them the chlorine is being attached on the first carbon. So it means that these two are not the isomers. They are the same structures. Isomers are the compounds which have the different structures, right? So this one and this one is the same one. Okay, there is no difference in it. Similarly, let's suppose that if I replace this carbon which is at the bottom in the branch. Okay, so let's suppose I am drawing it over here. Okay, we have this one, 2, 3, and 4. So let's suppose that I replace the carbon from, I replace the hydrogen over here. Okay, so over here we have the hydrogen. So I'm placing the Cl over here. So if I place Cl over here, so again, if I select the longest chain of carbon atom, so I have to select the longest chain of carbon atom in such a way that the halogen would also be over there, the part of the longest chain. So it would be like this. So again, this is the carbon number 1. Okay. So in all of these three cases, these are the similar structures. Okay. These are not the different ones. These all three are the similar structures. But one would be the possibility that if I remove the middle one. Okay, so let's suppose I have this methyl propane, and what I did, I removed the middle hydrogen and I replaced the Cl over here. So if I replace the Cl over here, so now if I select the longest chain of carbon atom, so if I will select the longest chain of carbon atom, so now I have to start the numbering from the corner. So I can start from any corner, either from the right or the left, because the Cl is at the center. So if I start the numbering from the left corner, let's suppose 1 and 2. So chlorine would be at the second carbon. Okay, but in the previous examples, or in all of the previous examples, it was coming on the first carbon. Okay, so this is the possibility in which we are getting the chlorine on the second carbon. So this is a new structure, and this is the second isomer. Okay, these three structures are the same. These three are the similar ones. Okay, so these are considered to be the one isomer only, and this would be the second isomer. So only two possibilities are there. Okay, so or that's why the option B is the correct answer. Only two isomers can be formed from this compound. MCQ number 37. Which statement describes the disadvantages of manufacturing the ethanol by fermentation? Okay, so when you are doing the when you are preparing the ethanol by fermentation, so you have to identify the disadvantage. The process uses a renewable source. So this is an advantage, not a disadvantage. Okay, so that is incorrect. The process produces the impure ethanol. Okay, yes, obviously the ethanol which is being produced by fermentation, that is not a pure ethanol. Okay, that is impure because it also contains the yeast in it to it. Okay, so the process requires the high temperature. No, this process normally takes place at the room temperature, so that is also incorrect statement. The process is slow. Yes, the fermentation process is very slow, and the another process by which you can prepare ethanol is the hydration of ethene. That is a fast process. So option 2 and 4, statement number 2 and 4 are the correct. So option D is the correct answer for this one. MCQ number 38. Nylon is made from the nylon is made in a polymerization reaction. So we all know that the nylon is containing the amide linkage into it. And what is the amide bond? Amide bond is your C double bond O N H. Okay. So this is the amide linkage which is present in the uh, nylon. Okay, this amide linkage is present in the nylon. So which row describes the type of the polymerization? So since nylon is having the amide linkage, a functional group is present in the nylon. Okay, so that's why it would be a condensation polymer, not the addition one. Okay, because addition polymers are the ones which are formed when you have a double bond in between the carbon atom, when you have an alkene. Okay, so over here, since we are having a functional group, so that would be a condensation polymer. And you all know that in the condensation polymer, the byproduct is always the water, which is being produced along with the polymer. So option C would be the correct answer for this. And the MCQ number 39, it is saying that which ion forms a green precipitate when aqueous sodium hydroxide that dissolves, so it means that it is soluble in access. Okay, so for that you have to memorize that qualitative analysis table, which would be provided to you in the paper 6 ATP, but that is not provided in the paper 2, which is MCQs, right? So for that you have to memorize it. Okay, when you are adding this aqueous sodium hydroxide, so which cation will form a green PPT and which is also soluble in access. Okay, so the answer for this one is chromium ion. Okay, because copper, you all know that it's a blue PPT right over there, and calcium forms a white PPT. So over here, option B is the correct answer. The last MCQ in the 40, it is saying a mixture of soluble substances can be separated by the paper chromatography. Each substance can be identified by using its RF value. So what is the formula of the RF value? So in the RF value, what it is, the distance traveled by the component divided by distance traveled by the solvent. So option B is correct. Distance traveled by the substance or the component, you can say, divided by distance traveled by the solvent. So I hope you get a better understanding for this paper of IGCSE Feb March 2025. So if you have any queries, you can ask in the comment section or you can WhatsApp. So thank you for watching the video. Take care and Allah Hafiz.